Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a great break. How was coffee? Good. I hope you're feeling refreshed and you're ready to go. Our next set of speakers is sure to inspire you before we break for lunch. And our first speaker is, we're so delighted to present Tim Caynes. I love his bio as a content strategist. His bio inspires me to change my own. Tim is head of interaction design at Foolproof, meaning that he's responsible for the integrity of the thinking behind Foolproof's experience design work. It also means he spends a lot of time peering over people's shoulders, poking at their screen, saying, "What's that? And what does that do?" Or prowling around a studio with a volatile mix of whiteboard pens and permanent markers, shouting, "What about the narrative?" while a trail of Post-its waft through the air like fallout from a creative fusion. Tim has a wonderfully wicked, multifaceted blend of capabilities and capacities that he weaves into everything he works on. And he's been said to have a very charming personality and a hilarious sense of humor, which I got to experience during the break. So it's a delight to present Tim today, who will be talking today about architecting sustainable experience design teams for long-term growth. Ladies and gentlemen, Tim Caynes.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, everybody. So, any first times to UX Poland in the audience today? Because I'm one of those. Great, thank you. I don't know if there's any first-time speakers in the audience, in fact. Anybody speaking here for the first time? Excellent. I don't know if you're nervous, but I'm terrified right now, to be honest, so we're in the same boat there. I've got a massive timer on a screen down here, which is counting me down. So if I look like I'm panicking at any point through this performance, I am, because that's really evil. This is me. I got this right. Okay, so my name is Tim Caynes, as was just mentioned. I'm head of interaction design at Foolproof. So Foolproof's an agency based in London in the UK, and we do some kind of multitasking service design, a bit of mobile brainstorming, and we're particularly good at goal-oriented prototyping of the Internet of Things, apparently, which is lovely. So, this is my team, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So I have to tell you that this team of people, they make the place I work a place worth working. In fact, this is the design team in its entirety. In fact, it's not all of the design team because we keep adding people to the design team, which is one of the reasons I'm here today. Partly the point of what I want to speak to you today is about how we sustainably grow our teams, how we manage change, and how we really support those teams and the team members in it as they progress with an agency or a company the size of ours. So, okay. I just want to get something out there. I hate it when people just put words on the screen and read them out, because that might get a bit boring for the audience. So I won't be doing that. And you know that thing when people are tied to their laptop or their iPod or their iPhone reading presenter notes? Well, that's not very dynamic, so I won't be doing that either. And I have to be quick, because I've got about 17 theories to get through in the next kind of 15 minutes. So let's just get started. So first, kind of a confession, really. I've kind of got everybody here on a bit of a false pretense, because I haven't solved the team thing. I'm really using this event as a way to kind of get close to other practitioners who are kind of in the same position and who are trying to build their teams and sustainably kind of grow them. Because I believe that's what these kind of conferences are for, right? So I'm here to work it out with your help. I can't do it all on my own. And I know some of the answers because I've been through the process myself, but I don't know all the answers. So I haven't spent hours on making this presentation become kind of fait accompli, a kind of a blueprint for successful teams. All I really want to do is try and convene a conversation, kind of see how we can all be successful managing our teams. But I thought it would be useful to show you what I'm doing and see whether it's working, because some things I now know and some things I still don't. So what did my design team look like, and how did it get to the point where it was kind of failing wasn't performing particularly well. Well, it's really the story of two design teams, in fact. There's a design team at Foolproof and a design team at Flow Interactive, which became the design team at Foolproof and Flow Interactive, which kind of became the design team at Foolproof again. So it's a kind of a merge and a remerge and another merge of existing teams. At the point at which the two teams merged, we kind of tried to take it all the way back to a very small team size to make it very easy to manage and focus on quality. So we started with only 5 staff when we kind of rebuilt the team. But as we began to win more and more experienced design work, we realized we'd have to scale quite rapidly to meet that demand. And we were beginning to see kind of single points of stress as the team grew. So the question is, how do we structure a growing team? Now, I've worked in many places where a flat team has been encouraged. I've managed teams where the flat team has been encouraged. And I've only got one thing to say about flat team structures, and they don't work. Now, I've also worked in many places where there's so many levels of kind of director, senior, associate, midweight, kind of junior, graduate, intern, cat, that you just end up with a kind of a human caterpillar of design delegation stuff. But I've only got one to say about tall structures. They don't work either. Got no idea what that is. Right, okay, so this starts to look a bit more promising. So if you're planning to grow over the long term, you really need to be thinking about how the team structure looks over time and how it adapts. So flat, tall, balanced, whatever that means. They don't really do it. They don't really accommodate that kind of extensible growth. So you need a better framework to accommodate that growth. Now, and here's the thing. I don't really care what anybody says, as you may have guessed, but you should only really directly line manage 3 people. So get rid of the point of stress where you have an overloaded team in a flat structure where you just can't manage the folks underneath you. And the reason 3 works is because it does a much better job of supporting the team in it. And here's why. Because it's much better set up for practitioners to mentor others in the team, because mentoring is critical, right? For sustainable teams, but it's the first thing that suffers when your point of stress takes over. You know, you're no longer able to commit the time or dedicate your resources to mentor others in the team. And that's just wrong. And delegation also cascades much more elegantly with this structure. There's nothing worse than not knowing where the operational support is when you're in larger teams, and also kind of where the accountability is within those teams. But most importantly, the extensible structure enables you to grow your teams predictably, efficiently, and sustainably. Honestly, at Foolproof, if we hadn't arranged our team around this structure, we'd be all over the place. Well, we are all over the place a little bit, actually, but we would be all over the place without the support of this extensible structure, because the growth is so rapid, we need to understand how the flexibility in the structure of the team enables us to get there. Critically, as you grow the team, kind of the reporting lines across those team structures can be adjusted just to maintain the balance and the integrity of the structure, so that theoretically, at least, that exponential growth can be accommodated. And it's not just because it's a benefit to the company or the agency in our case. This is about how we support the team. Because if we love the team, well, win-win or something. I mean, the pathways aren't especially prescriptive here, but they're pretty well articulated. So if you're ambitious and bright and you buy me ice cream, then it's pretty clear how you might progress your career through this structure. I mean, everything's negotiable. We can go sideways if you like, but at least you know where we intend to grow as an organization and where you might fit into that team structure. Which is all really about setting realistic goals and expectations. It's about clarity. So that's clarity around structure, and that's really bright, actually. Clarity around accountability, clarity around quality, and clarity around sustainability. Which is all very well, Tim, but who actually are the people in these teams? What are those roles and what do they look like? What do I call them And how might I recognize myself in a team structure such as this? Well, there's no mystery to it, really. Here it is. We have design director, principal designer, senior designer, and designer. And that's it. So I don't have time really to go through it because this time is counting down in my face. I know I don't have time to go through this in these descriptions. But really, what these roles are about vision, strategy, direction, and execution. I mean, we all do all of those things, but we don't preclude any activity within the organization. But there is a point at which you kind of need to know what it is you're supposed to be doing and why. So this is that. So knowing your objectives within that team structure gives you accountability and ownership of those decisions that you make. So without that, I mean, you don't stand much chance. But ultimately, we need to deliver on our design promises. As a design studio or design agency, we need to make sure that we deliver the things we were going to do. So really, this is about building the right framework to support that. Doing what you say you were going to do is what matters. Everything else is just, well, it's just everything else. So that's structure. That's a whistle-stop tour through our structure and how you might accommodate that. But how can you change what you have? Because it's all very well me standing here telling you how to change your team structure. But going through the change is where the pain is in the business, because change is hard and change is pretty messy. Because team change is organizational, especially for larger organizations. So this framework is all very well, but if you're not in a position to affect the change in your organization, well, excuse me, then you're pretty much fucked. Honestly, it took us about 2 years where we are to slowly align all the pieces to make this happen, partly by stealth, partly by design, but it's not easy. Because your organization needs to want to do this, and which means you need to know why it's a good idea and what it looks like, and what good looks like in the end. But it's not just organizational. Team change is largely cultural. If your business doesn't support a culture of change, then, subsequently you are fucked. Flexibility, sustainability, growth. If this is the ethos of your organization, then you have a chance, because change is a product of that culture. But make no mistake on this, knowing the change isn't the same as making the change. Okay, so let's imagine for a minute that you've made the change, your team structure is in place, but all you have are these kind of temporary placeholders on your website. So how are you going to fill these spaces with awesome people, like the awesome people in my team? Well, the first thing is, don't approach my team. That's the first rule. The second rule is really there isn't a second rule. I mean, really, I've spent years trying to work out the best predictable way of recruiting the right design staff, and my conclusion is I have absolutely no idea how to do that. I don't really know what makes somebody employable, really, frankly. So, I mean, don't get me started on CVs or resumes, because I really don't have anything to say about those. Actually, I do have something to say about those. I don't care about those, frankly. And I know that portfolios are a great way of telling a story and everything, and everybody has to have one, and everyone has to look better than the one before, but really, I don't really have much to say about portfolios either, other than I don't particularly care for those either. But since I do happen to have built a very nice team of designers, thank you, what was my selection process? Well, once I've gone through all the kind of recruitment stuff to get people through the door, we have a screening process, and there's some nuts and bolts and kind of dotting I's and crossing T's that we have to go through just to get people in the room. Once I'm sat in the room and I'm having that initial chat with somebody about a design role, I like to apply what I call the like matrix to make my big decisions. Now, the like matrix is a scientifically engineered question set that's designed to filter out highly effective candidates using some kind of parametric scaling of some sort or other. So the like matrix goes a bit like this. Question 1, do I like you? Question 2, do I like you? Question 3, do I like you? And that's really about it. I mean, they can probably do the job if they're in the room, but I have to work with these people, so I kind of have to love the people I'm working with. I mean, it's easy to train people into these roles, and I can probably build the skill set and I can help you get there through the mentoring and this team structure, but actually the first and primary influence is whether I like you or whether I want to work with you. That's really what gets you a job, with me at least. Which brings me on to loving your team. I think it's Kim Goodwin who uses the phrase, loving our teammates as we love our users, which is very nice. But it perfectly describes the massive contradiction of most experienced design agencies. I mean, we're brilliant, really brilliant at external collaboration with clients and stakeholders, but we tend to be fucking terrible at doing that internally with our own staff. We're as guilty as that as anybody at Foolproof, so we've kind of taken deliberate decision to kind of address that with some kind of simple changes to the way that we work. The first thing we've done is to put together cross-functional teams around projects rather than maintaining kind of operational separations around job descriptions and roles. That means at the outset of a project, we take our designers, our researchers, project managers, client services, whoever happens to be in the room at the time, and provide a kind of physical space for them to work in for the duration of that project. I mean, it doesn't always work perfectly, because individuals have their own character traits, and some people just don't like working with other people, but it's also a logistical nightmare to get that thing worked out, but it really does make a difference. Because what it does is it blurs the boundaries between those operational teams so that working together becomes the rule rather than an exception. And it provides super rich learning environment too for practitioners to develop and learn new skills that they wouldn't normally be exposed to or have the opportunity to develop. More importantly than anything though, it means people actually talk to each other and get to know what each other does. Because in those operational silos, really, we don't get much communication going on, not in a way that's really healthy for the team. Because empathy is everything, right? So, we had years of operational teams within the agency doing their thing in their own special place, set up in the corner, or that office part over there, or that part of the building over there. And it really is a problem. Because accountability is all over the place. No one's really invested in the project in the way that they are if they work together. We get sour-faced miseries and headphones in the corner picking over falafels. I mean, it's fucking terrible. So the thing to do is get these people to move, sit somewhere else, talk to strangers in your own office, because it really matters. And those close teams also look after each other. That's not to say I don't look after them. I mean, that's part of my role, clearly. But you do get special relationships in these teams when they start working on the project together. And that helps when your team members need the love, because not all projects go as well as might be expected. So despite Foolproof having a clear policy of not overworking, sometimes people feel the need. So the work-life balance, that suffers as a result. Well, that's a rather large problem I can't cover here, but here's the thing. A culture of internal collaboration kind of dramatically increases the effectiveness of the teaming. And when those teams work together, then within that team, you're never on your own. But it's not all about teams that kind of miraculously look after themselves. Clearly that isn't always going to drive the design team forward and give it the direction that it needs. Teams need leadership, and they need quite firm leadership sometimes. And leadership comes from demonstrating values and culture of the organization in everything that you do. And leadership is about clarity. So I've mentioned clarity before, but clarity is golden. It helps team members understand their role, the expectations of them and their place in the organization. And clarity removes ambiguity, which eliminates doubt, which inspires confidence. And there's nothing better in a leader than inspiring confidence. And I often get in trouble for sticking with this one, but leadership is about developing the team and the individuals within the team, whether they continue to work for you or not. Your career right now might be with us. Your career in the long term might not be. And it's just about being pragmatic about that. I mean, we want team members to stay, and we want them to be fully invested in the work they do when we're with us, but people move on. I think we just need to get over that fact. But while you're with us, leadership is also about recognizing the individual's contribution to the team. Now, reward and recognition doesn't have to be all about grand gestures and holidays. It's manifest in the small things mostly. So never underestimate the value of simply telling somebody that they've done a good job of what they're expected to do. Now, how does it feel when someone says thank you? And it really doesn't happen enough. But maybe most importantly of all, in terms of supporting the team, you really have to invest in training. Now, I can't overstate this enough. Learning on the job is great. You pick up a lot of stuff just by doing your job properly. But the training budget, we have a training budget. I'm sure some of you have training budgets out there. That's for you to extend yourself beyond the confines of the client work that you're doing. And frankly, I don't actually care what you do with it. If you think it will make you a better practitioner, then do it. If it enhances your skills for now and the future, do it. If it really seems to have nothing to do with your role, but might make you a better person, do it. My personal recommendation right now is to avoid formal training and go to an event like UX Poland, for example. These events, are great for team building, cross-channel, and value-added inspiration. But these events do change your life. And I can vouch for that personally. So if you want to go to an event like UX Poland, or an IS Summit, or Interactions, I'll sign that off. Because that's the best thing you're going to do, and you'll get so much out of it. And I hope you do, and have done in the time that you spend here. You'll learn more at these events more than you can possibly imagine. And mostly, what you learn isn't necessarily on the screen, but it's about yourself and how you interact with the other people in the room. And really, that's what this is all about. It's about people and not process. If you architect your team around people, then you do stand a chance. We might look a bit like this sometimes, but actually, we feel a bit like this sometimes. So it's just worth remembering that. So, to take away, because I've got 8 minutes and 31 seconds left and I'm supposed to allow time for questions, architect the team, find the people, provide vision, strategy, and direction, and just let them fucking do it. Just let them get on with it and do what they do best. And if every person in that team knows what the organization does, why they do it, and what good looks like, then maybe they can understand how what they do makes a difference. And that sustainable growth, well, then that just becomes part of the equation. I'm not saying it's magic, it's hard work. You have to keep on top of it. You have to make sure that at every point in the journey that those staff members have in that progression through the structure, you have to be all over that and invest the time and effort in that. But setting up the team, setting up the structure, providing the great leadership, and then getting out of the way is part of what makes those structures viable. Thank you.